Well, hi, Brooke.
Hello.
How are you?
I'm good. How are you today?
Good. I have my tea right
Good.
here. I'm ready to tackle this episode.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Me too. I'm excited for it.
So, personally, for me, I went through the realization that I can't attract the person that I want into my life, the person that I want to love me if I don't love myself. So, I came across a post a few weeks ago, and it mentioned, are you looking for a love story? Or are you looking for a life story? So, who do you see yourself building a life with? Who share your values and not just, sex positions, preferences? And who really accepts you as your authentic self while bringing out your best light into the equation? So all these points, we discussed and we started talking about, hey, how about doing an episode about soulmates? And I think it's such a great way of doing that because for myself, at some point in my life, I found this really strong, loud inner voice that just told me to go through my own intrinsic search of my own soul. And so I found myself evaluating where I was in life back then. That was obviously before I met my husband. I kind of realized that I ended up in the same relationships with different faces. I kept attracting these people into my life that were very far from what I wanted to, from who I wanted to be with. Right? And there's a quote by Rumi, and it goes, yesterday I was clever, so I try to change the world. Today I'm wise, so I'm changing myself. And that's exactly what came to me. I realized that I may have some relationship traumas that haven't healed from, both your parents. We're not perfect. So, I feel that's the relationship that my parents have didn't mean that I needed to end up with those same relationships. And I haven't healed that part. And so I felt that I needed to take care of myself way before I call on the universe to bring me the love of my life. And at some point, I said to myself, you know what? I'd rather be by myself, not even bring kids into the world, than to compromise on another weak relationship, another disappointing relationship. And sometimes I feel like we separate ourselves from the herd just to go through that self-evaluation process. And for me, it was, I didn't want to have another replica of a failed relationship. So I took some time off, and I realized in that realization, what came to me is that I was always so busy with my career. As someone that grew up on the arts, I always toured. I toured the world since I was 10 years old. I was dancing and singing. And so I was so busy doing that I wasn't really busy getting to know who I was. I didn't know really what types of relationship will suit me because I never took the time to be by myself. I never took the time to really seek within my soul what it is that I am and what it is that I'm looking for. So I started this whole spiritual journey. I took some communication courses at a place. It's a system that's called the Landmark Forum. I met some friends there. And later I found Kabbalah through a friend that literally pulled me by the hand to the center and said, hey, you need some spirituality in your life. And I felt that through spirituality, life made sense to me. I realized that I haven't passed the tests, quote unquote, that the universe kept giving me because I didn't know A, that I was tested, and B, I didn't know what I really wanted. And so I confused the universe by sending mixed signals. Yes, I don't want to be alone, but hey, I don't want to have this person into my life either. So what do you want? Right? So then I posted something on Facebook. I said something like, if you're looking for a psychologist, social worker, therapist, or someone like that, I'm not your person. Seconds later, I got a text from a buddy of mine that was in my motorcycle club, and he asked me if I'm dating anyone. I said I don't, and he suggested that I would meet his friend, and his friend is now my husband, and the rest is history.
I love that. Love that. That's like such a testament, and I fully resonate to the idea of like loving yourself first before you can really attract someone in your life to love you at the level that you deserve.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah. In a relationship, the person essentially becomes a mirror reflecting back to you what you believe of yourself. So, it can be some deep inner work. It certainly was for me as well. Like I
Hmm.
resonate with so much of what you said. And it's really getting to a place of feeling worthy enough to feel that you deserve that amount of love from a partner. And if you can't extend that love to yourself first, then why should you expect it from someone else?
Right.
And also from an energetic perspective, you aren't at the frequency that would match for that higher
Hmm.
level of love. So like I love looking at kind of the energetics behind that, but it makes total sense. Um yeah, and like as I was kind of thinking of this episode, I was like, I think it's important to note like kind of make a little note on self-love, because I think it's like this term that gets thrown around a lot, like, oh, just love yourself first and learn to love yourself. And when you were talking too, you said like I really needed to get to know myself. And that is like such a key, is that to love yourself is to know yourself.
Hmm.
And when you kind of take it from the backward stance of like, okay, let me love myself. So I'm going to think of like reasons why I should love myself. And you're like, okay, I love myself because I'm a kind person. Well, your ego loves to attach to whatever identities it can find. And the second that you tell yourself you love yourself because you're a kind person, your ego's going to go in there and find a time you weren't kind, or you're
Hmm.
not being kind right now, and all of a sudden you're going to beat yourself up, and your ego's going to have a heyday. So I think that that's so important, that if you're going about this idea of loving yourself by just trying to rationalize it and find reasons, I would, I think that both of our journeys show, and just from all the kind of spiritual work I've done around it too, like it's really doing that deep work. It's like
Yes.
understanding who you are. And
Yes.
again, just like when we talked about the layers and peeling them back, it's like going back and back and back, and realizing that you're left with this eternal presence of I am. And it
Yes.
can
It is.
seem so, you know, a little bit woo woo, I guess, but like it's the absolute truth, that it's like learning how to just be yourself, be you, and full acceptance. True love is unconditional. And the second you try to put reasons on why you love yourself, those reasons are going to change. Those reasons are going to go away. So it's like finding that unconditional place. Um, yeah. But just a little bit of my personal story, because I think that like it's in a lot of ways mirrors yours. Like I was very weary of marriage. I'm a child of divorce, and I thought that it probably wasn't something for me. Underneath of that, there was a lot of fear and a lot of my own insecurities and wounds, mainly from childhood, that I needed to fully understand and heal. And really looking back, one of the first things that or first, I guess, activities that I did where I really started to feel energy kind of move and shift was that on a New Year's Eve, where I'd had a couple New Year's Eves where I just had kind of felt empty. And I was like, I'm,
Mm.
starting the year on a bad note. Not that you need to like, put a pressure on that it's the year, but for me, I was like, this year I want to be super intentional with what I want to feel in the coming year. And so I did Danielle Laporte's desire map, which essentially, if you're not familiar, it's like the idea that you come up with core desired feelings that you want to feel. And so I was like, I'm going to come up with my core desired feelings for the year. And I'm really going to work through those and exactly what I want to feel. And I meditated on that and went to bed and just felt the next day like so calm, so grounded. And like it really was like pretty immediate that I got a call to a job offer, essentially, to move to DC. I was living in Kentucky at the time. And it was when I was in DC when like I just started to deep dive into all of this personal development work. And um one of the books that I first read when I remember specifically reading it like in my condo there, but was A Return to Love by Marianne Williamson. And I ended up meeting my now husband about a year after moving to DC. But I think what was like super cool about that story is, and I met him through a mutual friend, which was great. But he had moved to DC the same exact week that I had, and we were actually only
Wow.
an hour apart when we lived
Wow.
there. So it's like I really feel like I don't know, like I deep down in like the universe, what like once I started to take control over how I wanted to feel,
Hmm.
and that I needed to do work on myself and find that place within me where I could, unconditionally love myself. It was like, okay, I'm gonna make things start moving for you and happening for you. And um, it took me that time in DC to really get clear. But yeah, it's like when you're ready, the things come. And I think the thing about that too is like when you truly get to a place where you're content with yourself, it doesn't mean that you don't want to invite someone else in your life or to have a partnership, but that if it doesn't happen, or if it doesn't happen on these certain times or in a timeline, it's okay, because you're at peace with yourself. You're fulfilled with yourself. And I think that that's so important.
That's so true. So and we're going to talk about it a little later in the episode. So it's not, you're not trying to find a soulmate because you're lacking. You're not
Exactly.
lacking anything. You're complete, you're whole, you're part of the divine. You are who you are, but you're seeking that soulmate to add, to take it to the next level, to be able to be, two vessels of sharing into the world, to be able to perhaps enhance the work that you came here for the world to do. So you're not ever coming from lacking. And what you said before was so true. Knowing yourself is loving yourself. Love
Mhm.
yourself first. You have to love yourself first before you allow anyone else to love you, because even if they do love you, you won't believe them because you haven't healed your wounds and you don't really love yourself. So no one can prove to you that you are loved if you don't know in your cells that you are indeed loved.
Exactly. Yeah. It cannot come from an external place. It has
No,
to come from within. Yeah. 100%.
it's
Yeah.
very beautiful how we took almost parallel ways,
Hmm.
parallel avenues to find our soulmate. So
Yeah,
beautiful.
it is. I agree.
you
Yeah.
know in the Bible we have the story of Isaac and Rivka, and the Bible tells us that Isaac first knew Rebecca, and then she became his wife, and then he loved her, which is really interesting to walk that path. Like first you know her, then she became his wife, then he loved her. So normally we meet someone, we fall in love, and then we get married. That's the typical scenario. So why is it the Bible specifies that Isaac knew her and then became his wife, then he loved her? So many people become involved in a relationship mainly for, like we said, companionship, right? You enjoy doing things together and you feel comfortable with that other person. So when does love enter? When does a relationship become love? At what point, if we take Isaac and Rebecca's story, at what point of their relationship did that become a relationship of love? So the answer, as some sages believe, lies in the Hebrew word for love. So love in Hebrew is ahava, and ahava is spelled in Hebrew aleph hey bet hey, and we always go by numerical value. So the numerical value of these letters adds up to 13. And the Hebrew word for one, echad, also has the same numerical value of 13. So what is ahava? What is love? Love is two people functioning as one unified entity. And it is while they still have their interdependence of their souls. So two, and then you have a bigger circle of one. And I was questioned about my philosophy when I was, back in the day about if you're going to be with someone, you need to be one. It's almost like the pieces of the puzzle. Yes, but you're still your own piece. You are your piece and your soulmate is another piece. You are still your own piece, but together, yes, you're creating from two pieces, you're creating one. So you still keep your identity. You are still who you are. You're not giving up everything that you have uh, come with. You're evolving into something bigger, better, more elevated, right? But most relationships don't function on this level. Most of them function out of emotional need, right? That need, um, that almost like feeling of I have to have a relationship. I'm not okay by myself, fearing of being alone. But a true relationship between souls is one in which one soul complements the other. So when one soul is down, the other strengthens and lifts the other soul up, and vice versa, right? The two souls function and act as a whole, a complete unit, while they have two different pieces. So means that's what love means, at least to me. And that's why the Bible explains the love that existed between Isaac and Rebecca as one of unity. True love, as far as I see it, is consciousness of unity. And it's not something that one can measure with five senses. If someone asks you, why did you love your husband? Why are you in love with your husband back when you started dating him? And you'll be like, oh, because he's like this. And like, you can't really put it into those five senses. You can really feel it. And there's like innate feeling that, oh my God, he's the one. That's it. That's the one I'm supposed to end up with. That's my guy. That's my other half. But sometimes we also believe that a man particularly has to go through a lot of hardships in order to meet his soulmate. And only when the woman is asking for him, then the universe will conspire for them to meet. And also, sometimes unborn souls, such as future children, we believe they puppeteer the whole circumstances from the upper realm. And I think that's a really cool concept.
Yeah. Yes, that's really a cool concept. And I love too that like it's like the woman's waiting just for the man to
To
get
be
to.
ready. Isn't that our
Yeah.
life story? Like, isn't it
Yeah.
always?
Yeah. Well, and yeah, and the thing I think of too is like with patterns, because you talked earlier about like patterns of dating, and I feel like a lot of my patterning before was like I'll be like the fixer, like someone that might be not be emotionally available, or for whatever reason is just not there where I need them to be, and it's like, oh, it's okay because I'm gonna fix them. And it's like,
Mm-hmm.
no, 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 you don't fix someone else. They know,
That's right.
their work has to come from an internal place as well. Like that, it's not,
Yes.
you're not going to be completing them either. So yeah, but I totally resonate with that. And then like also just, and I love like the numerical equaling, like of the connection of love equaling one. And like from like a broad sense of that, like I just through so much spirituality that I've learned, you hear like this concept of oneness and non-duality, and I think it can be a little bit hard to get your head around, and it's something that I'm starting to kind of open up to and really understand on a deeper level. But it's like this idea that nothing in this reality is really separate from ourselves, and even when we're experiencing duality, it's really just an opportunity to understand the one reality, which is God and which is
Mm-hmm.
love. So it's so beautiful that you have that numerical, like, you know, um, piece of that too, because I think that there's so many angles that you can look at it, and it comes
Mm-hmm.
down to like love and truth and God and one, and it's like all there. And it reminded me when I was like thinking this too, but I know you've most likely heard this story of Dr. Zach like questioning the fabric of reality, and just kind of to give a little bit of a broad perspective, I won't go too much into it, but Dr. Zach's told this story a few times where you hear that the fabric of reality is love. And it's like, well, what do you mean the fabric of reality is love? Look around you. Does this look like the fabric
Mm,
of reality is love? And so he received a message that no, the fabric of reality is actually beauty. And I love that because essentially beauty is what comes out of love. It's the ultimate expression of love. And in so many ways, though, it can be so much easier to observe beauty if you can't. So it's like a way in to love. And so I think that like bringing that back to being in relationship with someone, and that's whether it be like a romantic partner or yourself or a complete stranger. It's like start with the beauty. Where is the beauty that you can
mm,
see? Like if you can't connect in with that love. And like, so I think we all have like the opportunity to enter into love from that space. And then taking that even further, which I think is so cool, like is if you see like to see the beauty in something or someone is to know it, like you're understanding its essence. So like when you come full circle back to what you were saying with the story of um Jacob and Rebecca, that he knew her first. I just think that's so cool. And
mhm,
I don't think it's a coincidence there. I'm beginning to like understand how deep the Bible goes. Like I think that it's way deeper than we ever give it credit for when we look at it in a very literal sense.
mhm.
But I think that's beautiful. I feel like in some way that's kind of speaking to that idea. It's like to know it is to love it. To love it is, like it, I don't know. There's so much there that I think is is just beautiful. Such a
So
beautiful
beautiful.
story. Yeah.
So beautiful. You said something that I wanted to respond on. Yeah, to know something and to love. And what does knowingness mean? Like, like, how do you feel that your husband knows you? Like, for me, I know he knows me. I know that he knows when I need extra space. I know that he knows when I need an extra hand. I know that he just knows. And sometimes it takes me time to process what it is that I need. And by the time I verbalize it, he's already a step ahead, already ready to go for whatever it is that I haven't even realized that I need. So that
Yeah.
knowingness is so deep and it needs to, and now we are at a stage of our relationship that now it shifts to another paradigm. Now it moves further and deeper, and you know what type of conversations you have once the kids are all at school. Does he still know you? Like, we're changing. We're almost like seasonal beings, especially women, I feel. Like we go through seasons, and now that you have birthed the kids, does he still know you? And that those little checkpoints are so important. And I feel that it's equally important to kind of like flow with it, go into the flow of your relationship. What does this relationship needs from me now? If I'm no longer nursing, or even if I am, like those little shifts are important for our little clues for us to move along and flowing to the new knowingness of this phase of the relationship, right? I
Yeah.
came across something really interesting that talked about um, the difference between love and based on the physical reality, which involves emotion, and what true love is. So many believe that true love is the expression of warmth and excitement, the desires, the chemistry. Yes, it's amazing, but this is not a sign of love, right? As I figured out myself on my journey. And on the contrary, it's a the sign of love is something much more subtle, like what you just talked about. And you just know is there. Like when I opened the house, I lived with roommates in Venice. When I opened my house door and my husband stood there, I knew that's it. I was like, okay, that's it. My single days are done and see ya later. I knew he's the one. I knew, like I
Yeah.
knew. And plus, all the spiritual work that I took before that, I was like, I need that sign. I was ready. I was preparing myself for that one. That one showed up. There was no doubt in my mind that he is the one. right? The rest is history.
Yeah.
So there is a subtle notion that he is the one. And you 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 want to do everything with that person, right? True love is a consciousness and not something you can measure, like we said, with the five senses. So I think what I want to say is that knowing this, that one is when you feel the unity with the other person, not necessarily how you feel with the chemistry between you. And it doesn't mean that chemistry doesn't mesh. No, chemistry is important, but those are other aspects that are important. But the prime importance is how two people feel about the closeness that manifests itself as unity, as oneness. To me, this is true love.
Yeah. No, absolutely. And go and like you talking about meeting your husband and it just like that knowing is there. Like I totally agree. And it's not like you have to manipulate things or play games. It's just like you're you and they're them and it just works. And that was like really the first time I had experienced that, and it was just easy. It was not
Yes.
something that, not that relationships aren't any bit of work, but there's a certain flow to it that doesn't have to be forced, for sure. Yeah. And I think that like what you said too, it just reflects well of like what a true enlightened state is like. It's not something that you feel with the five senses. It is something that like it's a consciousness. And what I take to be like it is Christ consciousness, this love for everything and everyone, and it's unity consciousness. So in that regard, we seek what we're lacking in ourselves. So when we can get so much fulfillment from within ourselves, then we can let go of the attachment of needing to get that from another person. And that's when we're literally raising our vibration, like there. And if you the Power versus Force by Stephen Hawking, like
Mm-hmm.
that you can literally measure that calibration of higher consciousness, and you can attract in from that vibration. And another thing that reminds me of too is like, as far as love and being one, is that like you don't there isn't different really there really isn't different types of love. We tend to like categorize love as like, okay, well, this is romantic love, and then there's the love that I have for my child, and there's love that I have for a friend, love that I have for a stranger. But it's really just all love, and all that these different ways of seeing it are just different opportunities for you to understand what love is. And when you enter a partnership with someone, that you're sharing a life with, that is like fertile ground for really getting to experience so many aspects of love and to practice that on a daily basis. So yeah, I think it's like, it's so, I love like being able to kind of explore this from so many different angles. And it all gets back into like this idea of love being a state of consciousness, love being, something that is always there. You just have to connect in with it. And yeah, it's like that higher vibration, and that essentially it's somehow always is equaling one and unity. And yeah, I think that's like so beautiful. So
When you say
yeah.
you have to connect with it, it's like a charger. We got to plug in to that mega charger, but we need to know,
Yeah.
what are we plugging in? What are we bringing into this charger? So we'll find the right USB charger in order to plug into the, mega force.
Yeah,
Everything
so
is
true.
available, right?
Yeah. Going back, yeah, bringing it back to yourself and within. It's like you have to understand, yeah, the
Yeah,
charge with you, and like that, yeah, that force that's flowing through you, the life
right.
force, like your divinity, your, the God within you. Yeah, to plug
Yeah,
to that on the outside. Yes.
the energetic field. Like, what are you adding to the equation? What are you bringing out of yourself? What do you have within yourself? What are you adding? How are you adding value if you don't feel valued? Like, how are you, how, in our case, in our episode, how can you find a soulmate if you don't know your own soul? If you didn't take the time to explore your soul, appreciate the God-given gift that we all are walking around with, then how can someone else appreciate it for you? Like
Mm-hmm.
I knew exactly who I was by the time I met my husband. I knew more what I don't want than what I do want.
Yeah.
And with that little bit of, I did I also had like this big poster behind my head. Once I ceased seeing everyone and I said, I'm done, I'm done, I'm done. I put this poster, and I don't think that my husband even knows that, but he will after he listens to this episode. All the secrets are coming out. So
Yeah.
I put this poster behind my head as I was sleeping of a couple that for me really represented what a loving couple looks like and behaves like. And
Yeah.
I saw this internal passion and even knowingness within this couple that really inspired me to find a love like this, right?
Mm.
I and so I it was really interesting that all of the tools, everything that I've done, the communication course, the Kabbalah courses, that poster, that, law of attraction, imagination, whatever I felt inspired to do, I
Mm-hmm.
did. And then that came, and then the universe brought about that
Mm-hmm.
other piece of the puzzle. So I
Yeah.
think when you're saying we need to plug in, yes, we have to plug in. We just need to know what we're plugging it into. Like, what are we doing
Yes.
with that?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. And actually, and I had forgotten about this, so I'm so glad you brought up that poster. But like, this is kind of crazy too. I have a similar situation or whatever. Like, I had a vision board, and on my vision board, I had this like married couple. And again, like I think too, like another thing about vision boards and like it, the thing about this, the thing about like manifesting that it can be a little bit, I don't want to say tricky, but like you have to understand like it's like there's intention and then there's surrender too. So it's like surrendering
Mm-hmm.
to how it looks and how it, but like still having intention. So like I always wanted the intention of like that I was going to find, my partner eventually. But I put this picture of a married couple, and I had met Tom and I still had this vision board, and my mom was over at my apartment one day and she was like, picture kind of looks like you and Tom.
Oh,
So it's just so funny because it's like I just like found this picture that I just for whatever I connected with. And then like once I met Tom, I was like, oh, that does look like Tom from a distance. So it was funny, but yeah, I'm like that. I've had a few things that I've had on a vision board, and it kind of like gave me chills on how
me
accurate it
too.
was. Yeah.
Me too. Isn't it crazy?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, which actually reminds me that I need to like redo a vision board, a new
I should
one.
probably do one also. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think it's the power of laser focused intention,
Yeah.
right? I think if we all stay in that upper frequency, which is really hard, but if we try not to drop, be under a certain level of our frequency, then I think miracles can happen, right? What is the power of
Really.
prayer? Is everybody coming together, or the power of intention from your soul to pray for someone, for something? There is power in it. I think there's like a ripple effect in it. There's like a mega wave of consciousness that is lifting up and allowing something to happen that otherwise wouldn't have, because we're so busy with the hustle and bustle and everyday lower frequency things.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, and there's so much too, especially with vision boards, that it's like you're bringing that into your subconscious too.
Yes,
So, and there's so much power in that, like in that getting your subconscious on board with what you're consciously wanting to. Yeah.
exactly.
Mm-hmm.
Exactly. I know that we shared this story about the Exodus story in another episode, but I wanted to bring it up again in this one, in soulmates. I, I almost like I want to give a reassurance to our women in the audience that are listening that haven't found their soulmate. I just wanted to reassure that they are coming, and I wanted to give an example from the Bible, actually according to the sages. So in the Exodus story, the women, when they left Egypt and they wandered the desert, refused to build the golden calf. When Moses went up to receive the Ten Commandments, the men decided they wanted to build a golden calf to be their God, and the women refused to do that. What happened is the men just ripped the jewelry of their wives from, their bodies, and they still built the golden calf. The women didn't want to do anything less than the real light of receiving the Torah, and and so they didn't even accept the idea of building something substitutional until that crucial moment when women understood and chose to use their power. What happened is Eve's curse, Eve and Adam in Garden of Eden, was still upon us, and men were still somewhat mistreated them as more powerful than we actually are. So not until they saw the golden calf that that caused a break in our spiritual system, and that is when the men had lost sight of true purpose for which they were created. Could the women themselves become elevated? So one thing had to happen, cause and effect. One thing had to happen in order for us to elevate even more. So at this moment, we actually finished our correction. And so according to Kabbalah, since women are now corrected, the only people who still need correcting are men. And therefore, as we mentioned before, they have to go through more stages and more tests in order for them to complete their growth process, to come from the physical realm to the more spiritual paradigm. So they have more things to go through than women. And in spirituality, we know that even the least spiritual woman on earth still has the potential to be the greatest psychic and still has the ability to see beyond the limitations of her senses. So, all this to say, don't give up on anything. Your soulmate may need to go through a lot of other things before he's going to meet you. And I know that my husband for sure went through heck before he met me. And I was appreciative of every single step and every single person he met before he met me, because that has prepared him for me.
Yeah.
So don't lose hope.
Yeah. So, so true. Yeah. And I think that too is that it's like the idea of just really doubling down on you helps with that too. It's like, like the love for yourself and the full fulfillment with yourself and standing strong in your power. So yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah, definitely.
And I also came across like a definition of soulmate. So soulmate is described as someone who belongs to the same soul group, or someone who has been part of your spiritual journey or your lifetime journey from previous lifetimes. But in this lifetime, your soulmate have to just come to be around you. And there are 4 types of soulmates. There are past life soulmates, there are karmic soulmates, there are healing soulmates, which is an unexplainable connection with someone, and there is a twin flame soulmate connection. So whether it is a soulmate, the right job, or clarity about a decision, and sometimes we think like attracts like, but the right thing will be brought to you. The right thing that you need will be brought to you. So it's not about, like we said before, finding a soulmate. It is about revealing enough of our own light in order to attract and bring about your life's partner. So that said, I am a true believer that it is everyone's birthright to love, and it is everyone's birthright to be loved unconditionally. That said, what seeds can we plant today? How can we be more open and find that expansion in our hearts to contain another. Maybe, that individual's life are so full so that you can't contain another person. So do you have room in your heart? Do you have room in your life to have another person come into your life? Does the desire come from lack, like we said? Does the desire come from separation, desperation, anger, revenge, or is it really coming from our soul yearning for its soulmate? These are just some questions that I dribbled down yesterday as I was thinking about this episode, because it's important that we are going through this journey of finding this lifetime soulmate, but we need to remember that the intention needs to be very, very clear on our part. And to seek a life partner because we are lonely or want someone to fill a void is the antithesis of being light like. To seek your life partner so that together you'll bring more light into the world, more light will be revealed, is the highest consciousness to have. And therefore, considering the intention of why one would want to attract a life partner is crucial to the process of actually attracting him or her.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, and when it comes to soulmates, they like, and I don't know a whole lot about like the different types and stuff, but some soulmates aren't necessarily romantic either. It's not
Right.
that, like, there can be soulmates that are there like to help you evolve to something else. And it could even be someone who is like, does something bad, like, or that cause pain in your life, but that potentially that was what your soul needed to.
Yes.
Like, I think
Yes.
that's a beautiful concept.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And a dog can be a soulmate. You just can't be together with a dog. It's crazy, but it's
Yeah.
true.
But
So you can
yeah.
have a dog that you feel so close to. Oh my God, I love this dog. I love this dog. It can be your soulmate, but in this lifetime, it's an animal. It's a dog.
Yeah.
But it's a
Yeah.
soulmate to bring something out of your soul to help you with something.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I love that. That's so beautiful. And it ties in well. I know I brought this book up in another episode, but Little Soul in the Sun, the book where it's like the soul wants to experience forgiveness. Well, in order to be able to experience forgiveness, it needed to have a soul that did something, bad, quote unquote bad or hurtful to it in order for it to learn how to forgive. And so I think that that's like such a beautiful, like, understanding of that concept of like, and I think it's such a, like, whether or not you believe in, so like, it's like whatever your belief system is or however, like, I think that like, what a beautiful way to look at the world, and that it really anyone can be your teacher, like,
Mm-hmm.
like that, but like, it's what am I learning from this person? How can I evolve higher from what I just experienced? So, yeah, I think that that's
Absolutely. You said we can learn from anyone, and what I'm thinking about is our dog. We have a standard poodle. His name is Chachi Arcola, and he is hilarious, and he's a pain in the butt. He's all of the above.
yeah,
But what he teaches me is living in the moment. He's a party poodle,
yes.
so he's like happy all the time. All the time. You yell at him, he's still happy. You did, like, he's happy all the time. So when you said we really learn from
Yeah,
everything,
I
everything and
actually,
everyone.
yeah, I actually remember reading something. I mean, I think it was somewhat of a joke, but it's like actually we like enlightened humans come back in their next lifetime as a dog, which I'm
Yeah,
like, oh, I could probably see that. There is a whole lot we can learn from a dog.
there's
It's
yes,
like, yeah, connecting
yes.
with the moment and being like fully present and just joyous and yeah,
So joyous. So
yes,
joyous.
yes, so much
Or
we can learn
touchy.
from dogs.
Yeah.
I love that. Yeah.
I also came across yesterday, there's a shaman that I really like his work. He wrote Spirit Hacking, and his name is Shaman Durek. And he wrote something beautiful, and I thought that was like a divine timing for our episode about
Mm-hmm.
soulmates. And he wrote, "Women are the lost intelligence of this world that has to come forth." In order for that to happen, men must hold space and do the role that is being asked of them, which is to hold the container for wisdom that comes from women. For only then they are able to see the understandings of all aspects of life, because women are life. They create life and they understand life. When we begin to create more space for women, we create more space for ourselves, because we recognize that we came from women, and therefore the wisdom is then awakened within us all. This is the path forward and the only way in which we as human beings can evolve and grow on planet Earth. Create the space for women and create the space for yourself.
Beautiful. Yeah. It speaks so well to this idea of like, bring forth that feminine energy, rise it up, like find it within you and bring it forth. And yeah, and only good things can happen when that happens.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
what we're all being called to do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Own your authenticity. Yes, there's a lot of forces out there that is going to say, oh, what are you thinking? A lot of, judgment in the world. But in general, there's a lot of chaos. And the reason for me, I believe there's a lot of chaos is because this way we can rise above the chaos, right? There's
Absolutely.
more followers than leaders. In order to be a leader, you got to mute that noise and just
Yep.
rise above. No, take
Yep.
us to the next level. Let's all go to the next level.
Eh,
So own it, love it, and go despite the noise.
yes. Amen. And the more that you do that, the more you connect in with that authenticity, the less shakable you become. You are
Yes,
standing there and people can put their judgments towards you. They can, call you this or that person's crazy, but you know who you are. You're connected to your power. And that is what you are here to bring forth.
exactly. And those quirkinesses and those little things in your personality, if we speak from a soul wide perspective, that's going to bring about your perfect soulmate because you own it. You own who you are. If it's dry jokes, if it's something that you do with, I don't know, your eyebrow or your tongue, whatever that is, own it, love it. And once you're secured with it, once you know it is part of who you are, then your right soulmate will come without you needing to shift, change, or take anything out of the equation, because you are beautiful, you are perfect the way you are.
100%.
Yep.
Love that. I don't
And
think
that concludes
anything
it.
else. Yeah, I think that's a great way to end.
All right. So stay empowered, y'all.
That's right.
All
That's
right.
right.